The City of Groton Police Department, along with myself, wish to express our sincere condolences to the family of Suzanne Wormser, who was a victim of this heinous incident and did not deserve to lose her life at the hands of the suspect.
As panic over a possible New England serial killer hits a fever pitch, police in Groton, Connecticut say they've solved one case, and it's far more personal than any social media rumor. But does this finally shut down the online hysteria? Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to sit down with a Rhode Island police sergeant who's been wrapped up in all of this, actually investigated one key piece of this puzzle, and we are going to try to make sense of everything that is going on. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now, I said we were going to follow this story, and we certainly are, because what happened? We covered it last time. There's been some updates. For weeks, the discovery of human remains across New England has sparked panic online. At least 8 bodies. That number's interesting. We'll talk about it. But at least 8 bodies, maybe 7, have been found scattered across Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. Some Facebook groups are even speculating about a serial killer on the loose. But in Groton, Connecticut, police were quietly piecing together what they say is a far more personal tragedy: the brutal murder of 58-year-old Suzanne Wormser, allegedly at the hands of a man she once lived with. On April 25th, police announced the arrest of 68-year-old Donald Koffel, charging him with Wormser's murder, tampering with evidence, improper disposal of a body. And those gruesome details that were outlined in an arrest warrant obtained by Law&Crime, they reveal an alleged calculated and horrifying crime. And we're going to get into those details a little bit later. But with one suspect in custody, the bigger question now lingers. Does this officially shut down the rampant speculation about a New England serial killer? Does that put to rest all of these rumors? Maybe, maybe not. Groton police insist their case is closed. Wormser's death was a targeted crime, they say, not the work of a shadowy predator. Yet multiple other bodies have turned up across the region since March, with each discovery fueling social media questions, true crime speculation, panic theories about a killer or killers. And despite the online speculation, law enforcement agencies across New England, they're adamant there is no evidence connecting these cases. And that's according to reporters for Rolling Stone magazine who contacted departments in all affected jurisdictions, receiving consistent denials of any connection between the deaths, except for the Rhode Island State Police, which it appears didn't respond to the request for comment. Norwalk Chief of Police James Walsh told the Rolling Stone there is no evidence to support the fact that any death investigation of Norwalk is related to a serial killer. In New Haven, Connecticut, where 60-year-old Denise Leary's remains were found in some brush behind a home, police emphasized that there were no signs of foul play, saying there's no indication that the woman's remains found in New Haven are the result of a homicide. Denise Leary was suffering from some mental health diagnosis, and her remains were found near where she lived. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner performed an autopsy and was unable to establish an exact cause of death. The town of Groton Police Chief Louis Fusaro directly addressed the social media frenzy, saying there's multiple agencies investigating different parts of this. What I can tell you is there's been multiple incidents, including some that we've investigated involving missing people, that folks on social media seem to perceive as a serial killer. I can tell you we don't have any evidence of that. Regarding the Wormser case specifically, the City of Groton Chief David Burton had this to say.
So we have databases that the state agencies as well as ourselves participate in. Those databases did not result in any information coming back to us to say that anything was related. In addition, we monitor the same sources as everybody else does in the community. When individuals provide information from out of state, and we can contact those police departments, we reach out and talk to their investigators to find out if there's any link. We have no information that links our incident to anything else that took place within the state or outside in the surrounding area.
But the rumors of a serial killer truly reached a fever pitch when an anonymous post in a Facebook group originally named New England Serial Killer claimed that bodies were buried at Scarborough Beach in Narragansett, Rhode Island, sparking police efforts to search the area with cadaver dogs. That page, which has apparently since lost its name for an unknown reason, according to a post from the group's administrator, has garnered more than 67,000 members. And that is what brings me now to bring on our special guest, the sergeant himself who investigated these claims, Sergeant Brent Kuzman of the Narragansett Police. Thank you so much for coming on. Really good seeing you. Appreciate you taking the time and also the great work that you and your team do. So let's start here. What did Narragansett Police find and how did they come to begin this investigation?
So what we found was nothing. If you want the too long didn't read, that is what we got from where we searched. But now let's backtrack to how we got the case. Over the Easter weekend on the 19th, we were contacted by multiple people via email, phone call, Facebook on its messenger. We were advised of some ominous posts in this New England serial killer Facebook group and their sister Facebook group. They were all anonymous and they were definitely eerie, almost poetic-like. And they alluded to bodies being buried at the northern part of Scarborough Beach, which is known as Black Point. There are ruins of a carriage house from the Gilded Age there, known as the Windswept Ruins. And there are alleged to be 6 bodies buried vertically facing the water. And it was definitely ominous. It was worrisome for multiple people. Dozens contacted us over the weekend. So on Monday, when our unit came in, we hit the ground running. We contacted the administrator of the Facebook post. We received screenshots of every post, some of which were deleted at the time, but she already had screenshots. And we began to kind of piece it together, read it over, and see really what we were dealing with here. As you know, anonymous Facebook posts are never really anonymous. The group admin could see the name of who posted it, and it appeared to be more of a basic account with no personal information, what some refer to as a troll account or a burner account. And in the comments section of some of these posts and other people's posts, he basically told them we were, there's no crime explicitly stated. I'm being metaphorical. I'm a storyteller. He alluded to working on a novel, but the people in the group would not have known that because it was an anonymous original post. So Monday we hit the ground running. We did a quick search of the area that day. It is a large area with there being beach, trails, and woods. So we felt it would be best to get cadaver dogs to search the area as well. So we coordinated with the Rhode Island State Police for a Wednesday search of the area. I had my 3 detectives go down with their 2 dogs. They independently searched the area one by one. They came to the conclusion that there was no indication from either of the canines of any remains in the area. But so what we basically had was maybe a half cockeyed confession, but with no bodies. So we didn't believe it was credible information, but it was definitely worrisome. And there was a lot of community concern about this. To have potentially 6 bodies buried in town would be a shocking, horrifying discovery. So it's something we wanted to get out there and kind of make sure it wasn't anything. I'd rather do something and go over the board with the search than not do enough and it be something.
Well, I'll tell you, if it wasn't clear by now from a lot of the stories we cover, I think it's fair to say that crime is rampant right now. And you know what? That is especially true with cybercrime. Cybercrime is growing more dangerous and widespread. It is threatening businesses like never before. I mean, did you know that in 2024, 1 in 5 businesses fell victim to ransomware, and half of those were small businesses? Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Now, here's the good news. Apollo Networks is here to protect your business and help you fight against these business-ending threats. They use the latest cybersecurity technologies to monitor your systems 24/7, stopping threats before you even know they're there, preventing downtime, and also safeguarding your data. So beyond just protection, they optimize your daily operations by managing your backups, providing 24/7 tech support, and just being your trusted partner for all your IT needs. Their mission is simple: deliver elite-level security while helping your business run faster, more efficiently, and with peace of mind. No business is too big or too small to be protected. From one computer to thousands, they have custom solutions to fit every industry. So right now, you can go to apollonetworks.com/sidebar or scan the QR code on screen to get a free network health assessment and also 50% off of your first month. The group administrator, anybody from that group, could they face any kind of liability right now? Are they being investigated for how these rumors spread or anything like that?
As of right now, we're not looking for any charges. Nothing is pending. The group administrator herself is very vested and emotionally tied to this. She has a deep passion for it, and she was very helpful.
Okay, good. That's good to know. So let me ask you the general question now. What is your response to this ongoing public concern about a potential serial killer in New England, because it just doesn't hit, Rhode Island, it hits other states. Do you see there could be something here? Do you see a pattern that would support any of these fears?
So first thing, this has definitely hit a fever pitch. Everyone that I know has basically asked me, is there a serial killer? Anyone that I have seen in the public, a lot of people are concerned. It has definitely hit a fever pitch, almost hysteria-like with a lot of people, especially locally. We are a tight-knit community here. As of right now, I have not worked any of the other cases. I have not seen the case files. Only as of recently, some of the cause of death and manner of death were released. So looking at what I have right now, I do not believe there is a serial killer. Unfortunately, addiction runs rampant with some of these bodies that you do find out in the wilderness, by the woods, trails, water. Homeless people do tend to live in these types of areas. And unfortunately, self-harm is still a large problem in our community. The other aspect of it, the arrest was made in Groton. Another thing with homicides, it's mostly people that you are known to you. It's domestic related. It's business partners. It's people that are acquaintances. So, and that's what it looks like in the Groton. It was an ex-roommate. But as of right now, without looking at each individual case file, I cannot say that there is a serial killer or any links between any of those other cases. But it's something we did explore for us. But that's where we're at right now with that.
Let me explain to our audience what we're talking about here. So I mentioned earlier that while Groton police were able to put a cap on that investigation, there are other jurisdictions that are still investigating what happened to these other people. We did a full breakdown on a previous episode of Sidebar, so I encourage everybody to check that out. But just to kind of give a quick recap, March began with two grim findings on the 6th. 35-year-old New Yorker Paige Fannon's body in Norwalk River, Connecticut, and an unidentified human skull discovered the same day. 13 days later, March 19th, Suzanne Wormser's remains were found in a suitcase near a Groton cemetery 80 miles east of Norwalk. Then the discoveries accelerated. March 20th, 59-year-old Denise Leary's remains were found in a wooded area behind a house in New Haven, Connecticut. March 26th, a 56-year-old woman was found in the woods of Foster, Rhode Island, 8 months after she went missing, but we're choosing not to name her because it's our understanding her family believes that that case is not connected to any kind of serial killer theory. April brought more questions. On April 9th, unidentified remains were found in Killingly, Connecticut. April 10th, more unknown remains turned up in Framingham, Massachusetts. And most recently, on the 22nd, a woman was found dead near a Springfield, Massachusetts bike path. Police identified her as 45-year-old Megan Meredith, and police are investigating her death as a homicide, but Springfield Police's homicide unit called it an isolated incident. So, Sergeant, from a law enforcement perspective, if this was a serial killer, and there was at least a concern about a serial killer, what would you be expecting to see more of? What would be the pattern that you might, even though I know you haven't had a chance to look at these individual cases, but you're reading the reports, you're seeing the reporting on this, you're being asked questions about it. If there was a serial killer, what specific criteria would you be looking at? What kind of pattern would you be looking at to make this more of a legitimate theory?
I would be looking at the MO, what it is, the manner of which, when I speak of manner of death, that would be homicide, suicide, accidental, natural, or undetermined. So I would be looking at if they were a homicide. So I'd rule out the rest. I'd rule out self-harm. I'd rule out natural causes, and then I would stick with homicide at that point. We would then look at the cause of death. If it's the same type of weapon, same situation, same type of victim, such as someone that might possibly be a sex worker or homeless, someone that might not know their attacker, their accuser. So we rule out things like domestic situations, ex-boyfriends, girlfriends, ex-spouses. But we would have to really rely on the medical examiner's office to provide us the forensic pathology, give us the manner of death, and then the cause of death. Some of the cases you've referenced, they were basically just bones. They didn't have anything. One was just, I believe, a partial skull. And that presents a lot of other issues when you don't have maybe an exact manner or cause of death. You just have a skull, and that is it. But once again, without looking at all those case files and reading the reports, it is hard to make a kind of a, it is hard to make a 100% yes or no what this is or what this isn't. But as we do know, serial killers are quite rare, and most homicides are conducted by someone that is known to you, whether it be domestic or some other form of arrangement.
Well, I wonder if people look at this and say, if there really was a serial killer, how much would the police department and the various agencies, how much would they reveal to the public? If they say, yes, we do suspect this could be all connected and there is a serial killer, the fear that that would generate. I mean, it's already people are a little bit on edge. How do you balance that? What do you reveal?
That is a great question. You have to balance public safety with the privacy of the families and the investigation. Active investigations the cards need to be held close to our chest at some point. We can't reveal too much. But you would have to balance public safety, and that's kind of where we were with this. We wanted to get out that we believe this to be a hoax, that there was no bodies found in town. We wanted to kind of nip that in the bud before it spread to something even further. Sometimes with the investigations, you can't release a lot of information, whether that be it is an active investigation, it's unknown, we're pending results, toxicology, forensic pathology results. So when you have that, not a lot of information out, it kind of creates a vacuum for these rumors to swell. And that's where you see the online chat, the banter going back and forth, and that's where the rumors kind of really take over, and that's how we get to a fever pitch like this, unfortunately. But when you have active investigations, sometimes you can't release certain information yet because you either don't have it or it's too pertinent to the investigation to release publicly. But you do have to balance the interest of public safety if you believe there is someone actively out in your community versus the privacy and the sanctity of the investigation.
And you wonder whether the arrest here would weaken the possibility of a serial killer behind this. I mean, we talked about the individual circumstances, unidentified remains, different ways people were found. And I actually want to go back to this. I want to go back to the arrest that rocked Groton, Connecticut, and now has put a new kind of a new factor to consider in all of this. So 68-year-old Donald Koffel now stands accused of murdering his roommate, Suzanne Wormser, whose dismembered remains were found, police say, just 800 feet from their shared apartment. And the City of Groton Chief David Burton broke down the apparent timeline of events to the media.
Both the victim and the suspect knew each other, and this was a targeted event. Let's go over a timeline. On 3/19/25, we responded to a crime scene at Colonel Ledyard Cemetery where the victim was located. Detectives then began talking with neighbors in the area and checking for video coverage, which could assist in uncovering what had happened along with establishing a timeline. Additionally, follow-up was performed and on leads that were received via the department's social media page, as well as calls placed to the department by community members. This included contacting other police departments in surrounding states to research whether or not the reported incidents were related. On 4/11/25, a tip line was established, which began to receive additional information. And on 4/16/25, a tip received from a concerned citizen provided a possible victim identification and led us to Allen Street. On 4/17/25, the Allen Street residence was searched and another crime scene was discovered and processed. This resulted in the initial identity of a suspect who was interviewed at that time as a person of interest. On 4/18, with the initial testing completed, the two crime scenes were connected. On 4/22/25, the suspect was interviewed for a second time, and on the same day, a witness came forward with specific details about the crime as told to them by the suspect. And on 4/23/25, the suspect was interviewed for a third time, and at that time confessed to the murder, providing details that matched the scene documentation as well as evidence collected by the investigators.
Now, these chilling details from the arrest warrant reveal an alleged calculated killing and disturbing cover-up. On March 19th, a witness reported a foul-smelling black suitcase near Colonel Ledyard Cemetery. The police made a horrific discovery. The warrant reads, Officers manipulated the suitcase to expose the content and discovered it was a female human torso that had been wrapped in a black trash bag. Investigators reviewed traffic camera footage to determine the suitcase appeared there between February 13th and 18th, 2025, but the breakthrough came on April 16th, when Wormser's sister called the FBI tip line after recognizing the victim's description. So police did a welfare check at Wormser's apartment. They didn't find her. And the property manager revealed that Donald Koffel, Wormser's live-in companion, had been the apartment's sole occupant before being hospitalized. So what police discovered during their April 17th search was nothing short of chilling. Their search led them to a baseball bat, and according to the warrant, at the end of the bat, investigators noticed what appeared to be a dried blood-like substance and brown hair strands that were struck to the end of it. Investigators noticed the arm of the sofa bed in the middle of the living room had significant discoloration that appeared to be dried blood-like substance. And the case took a dramatic turn when a friend of Koffel's came forward with disturbing information. According to the arrest warrant, witness 2 said at some point Koffel went to the hospital, and when he came back, Koffel told him his crack cocaine was missing and it was worth $200. Witness 2 said Koffel told him the female resident of apartment 161 stole his crack and that he was going to kill her. Witness 2 said about a month or two later, Koffel came back to his house and told him they were not going to see the lady again and that she was gone. So confronted with DNA evidence and the witness account during questioning, Koffel's denials crumbled. And he eventually apparently confessed. He allegedly told police, "All right, man, I did it. I hit her in the head with a bleeping baseball bat and it cracked her bleeping head open." He also told police he kept her body in the apartment for a little over a week before dismembering her and disposing of her remains. He was arrested, charged with murder, tampering with evidence, improper disposal of a body. He's looking at life in prison if convicted. Sergeant, I know this is a factor in this case, and I kind of laid it all out. What do you make of this development? And again, I think it goes to, you said before how some of these crimes are personal and they know the perpetrator, but just your overall thoughts on this and the details of this alleged crime.
It is a disturbing case, and it does draw attention to the fact that domestic violence is so prevalent and it's such a major concern. When people are close to you, those can kind of be the most violent situations that we walk into as police officers, and that definitely proved its head reading the arrest warrant from Groton police. It definitely draws attention, I would say, away from the serial killer aspect. It makes it much more personal and personally much more concerning when it is someone that you share a room with, you share a life with.
And just final thoughts, what would you advise everybody who's looking into this? We're going to stay on top of it as well, but what would you advise everybody who's trying to find some answers as to a possible connection or just the circumstances behind the deaths of these individuals?
I think it's very important that we remember each individual body that is found was a person. They have parents, they have loved ones, they might have children, coworkers, neighbors, people that care about them. So never remove the personal aspect from these cases. Each person was an individual, and we have to remember them and their life. So remember that when you're posting online, when you're talking about it, you are talking about someone's family, and their family might be reading these posts, concerned, following up. Hopefully, we are starting to quell the public fear of a serial killer, because it is, as you said, reached a fever pitch. It is a main concern right now. And when you're looking online, you have to be cautious when you read anonymous posters on Facebook. They are doing this for a reason. They are looking to get a rise and a desired reaction from these groups. When you post to a group like the New England Serial Killer Group, I know their title is now gone, but when you post to a group like that, you have like-minded individuals that are all looking for answers right now. And sometimes there is a confirmation bias when you read these, that you have a conclusion in your head already that there is a serial killer, and you're using whatever information, what logical hoops you have to jump through to get to that conclusion that there is a serial killer. So with that said, be mindful of what you read online and be a little bit cautious and do your own research.
And if people have legitimate information though, right, they want to help, what would you encourage them to do? Because sometimes the community can really be quite beneficial in these ongoing and unknown investigations.
I've said it once, I'll say 100 times, nosy neighbors will help solve crimes. We'd rather have the information as a police department than you not give it to us and hold it to your chest and it comes out later on. We always rather have the information. Contact us, email, non-emergency dispatch line, anonymous tip line. Police departments rather have the information. That way we can use it, see where we are, and follow it if need be. But we always rather have the information. Send us your tips. Don't hold it to your chest, and get it out there to the police departments or your local authorities.
So for now, Mr. Koffel is being held on a $1 million bond. His next hearing is scheduled for June 10th. People will continue to look into this. We're going to stay on top of it. But listen, Sergeant Brent Kuzman, really thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the work that you and your team have done, and thank you for the advice and the suggestions you have given to the community at large about this, because I think it's important to hear, especially in today's day and age. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us, and as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. Speak to you next time.